Good evening, everyone. My name is Victoria Young. I am the Vancouver School Board Chair, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. With deep gratitude and respect, we are honored to be learning and unlearning on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Humukwiyam, Skohomo-Shokomeo, and Tsleil-Waututh. Our meeting is being broadcast live. Both audio and video recordings will be available after the meeting ends. As a board, we have a strong commitment to ethical conduct, and it is our responsibility to ensure our meetings are conducted in a safe and respectful manner. As a Board of Education for a school district, it is important we model the behavior that we expect of students in our schools. Tonight, we welcome Superintendent Helen McGregor, Secretary Treasurer Flavia Coughlin, and my fellow trustees that I'll ask to introduce themselves, starting to my right.
Susie Ma, trustee.
Christopher Richardson, trustee.
Trustee Reddy, pronoun she, her.
Alfred Chen, trustee.
Preeti Friedko, trustee. Lois Chan Penley, trustee.
Janet Fraser, trustee, she, her.
And we have regrets from Trustee Joshua Zhang tonight. Okay, so tonight is a delegation meeting. Excuse me. We have 12 registered guests who are here to delegate, who'll be presenting on the public feedback received. So delegates are presenting on the feedback that we received, which was in the proposed closure of Sir Guy Carleton Elementary. Trustees will take into account all input and feedback that's gathered during the engagement process, including viewpoints expressed at tonight's special public delegation meeting. When the decision comes to the board at the special public board meeting scheduled for December 17th, which is 2 days from now. Before we hear from the delegates, I just want to review a couple important points just from the procedure. Well, more than a couple, which is from our procedure for delegations to the board, which can also be found on the presentation slide, as you can see here, and on page 2 of the agenda package tonight. Time allotted is 5 minutes per person, and every effort should be made to keep within that 5 minutes. We expect delegates to comply with board norms of conduct and decorum. So please refrain from personal, inflammatory, or accusatory language. And delegate, please avoid using or disclosing any personal information, as well, as this is broadcast live, and we want to respect people's privacy. And questions from the board will be questions for clarification only, and nothing will be debated tonight, as it is just a delegation for the board. And I ask trustees to be mindful of time as well. And I just want to remind those who are speaking to us tonight, if you have heard a lot of the same thing, I just invite you to use your time to share something new with the board, as you only do have 5 minutes, and we'd like to hear as many viewpoints as possible from everyone. So a timer will be up on the screen, and you'll hear it after the 5-minute mark. You will hear a little ding, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with, and that alarm means that your time is up. So first tonight we have so item 2.1.1 on the agenda. Our first delegation speaker is James Schultz, and I will ask James to come up and present to the board. You have 5 minutes. You can start anytime.
Hi, sorry if I stutter a little bit. It's been a long time since I've spoken to a microphone. Used to play in a bar band, but this is a little bit different. Okay, so that being said, Carleton Elementary School means a lot to myself. My dad attended there in 1950 to 1955. Matter of fact, 1953, he accidentally dropped a bag of dirt down a stairmaster, landed on the principal's shoulder, and my dad was strapped when that was a thing in Vancouver, to the point where my dad passed out. Moving forward, I went to Carleton Elementary School 1987 to 1995, and for the last 25 years, I couldn't help but think to myself, wow, that's a huge parcel of land sitting in Vancouver. The school, the frame building built 1910, brick building built 1912. clearly, over 100 years old, structurally probably not earthquake proof. I understand that that would take a lot of funding to go into it. But I look at what happened to Kitsilano Secondary. In Kitsilano Secondary, they kept the facade of the building, which retains the heritage value of it. Now, why can't the same thing happen to Carleton Elementary School? Keep the facade of the brick building, do something.
Sorry, James, just a moment. I just want to remind those in the audience, we do have board decorum that we expect from visitors as well as trustees. So I just ask that you respect that. Sorry, we'll give you an extra couple seconds there.
Like what I'm thinking is, okay, with Kitsilano Secondary, there was a choice. Tear it down, do something new, or keep the facade of the building. And it's a beautiful example of what we can do here in Vancouver. Structurally, there's a couple other buildings in Vancouver where they've kept the facade. And, everybody's happy with that. It's a win-win. Currently, Carleton hasn't been used since about 2016, since the rooftop fire that happened there. Kids are going to other schools, and that may work for right now. But I look at all the different projects that are going up and down Kingsway. The 2400 motel spot, that's going to be a bunch of high rises in the future. And probably so many more properties are going to end up being, high rises. And, how many more kids are going to move into the area? Right now, it may be workable to not have Carleton as a public school. That may not be the case 20 years from now. It's been a landmark institution on Kingsway for over 100 years. The neighborhood was built around the school in the first place. So I don't think it's really fair, honestly, to the heritage value that Carleton Elementary School would be demolished. What I would honestly think would be workable would be the following, which would be get rid of the backfield. And I know this is very amateur. Get rid of the backfield where the gravel field currently sits. Get rid of the playground and turn the upper lot into high rises, if you will. Keep the front field, as a place for kids to play, and then redo the school, with the facades of the building at the front. I used to go there, a couple pictures of myself, 1995 and so forth. So a lot of history for myself. And I have a 7-year-old son, and I know if I still lived in the area, I would want him to be able to go to a school across the street, not 20 blocks away. Nobody wants to do that at 8 o'clock in the morning when they have lives. But when I look at the heritage value of Carleton Elementary School, they could probably put a good 2-3 high rises in that back lot. Kids don't need a whole entire mile of, or however much square footage or whatever it is that the whole entire school lot has. I mean, again, Carleton Elementary is a huge parcel of land. I think that front field would be very sufficient. They could almost put a new gym in between the frame building and the brick building currently. And then they could even maybe do a parking lot in the basement if it was only keeping the facades of the building. Honestly, I would think Carleton Elementary School, if it's demolished or used for any other purpose than a school, would be a huge loss for Vancouver. Vancouver's already lost enough over the years. And that's pretty much about all that I have to say. I don't want to see it torn down.
Thank you, James. We appreciate you coming to the board. Are there any questions for clarification? Okay, I do also just want to remind those, we have rules much like at City Council and at the legislature that we do not allow props. However, I appreciate you coming to share it with us. Thank you very much. And should there be any diagrams or anything you want to share with us, we'll accept that through our emails, or you can submit it in paper as well for future. Thank you, James. I don't see any questions for you. Appreciate you coming to speak. And next on tonight's agenda, we have David Finnis. Did I pronounce that correct?
Yes, you did.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you, Victoria.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you for being here, and you can start anytime.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I don't live in the neighborhood. I'll state that right off. I do go ride my bike up Vanessa to Collingwood Neighborhood House periodically. I take SkyTrain to visit friends at Patterson. I ride through on 45th and other areas, so I'm somewhat familiar with the area. I live near Trout Lake. My immediate neighbors are within Beaconsfield's catchment zone. I ride by Laura Secord, which is about probably closer to me than Beaconsfield, or in Selkirk, once or twice a week. So I've got 3 elementary schools around me. I'm also in an area that has had a lot of housing. There's been a lot of duplexes. Some of these duplexes have suites in the basement. I've got a 53-unit apartment that's just gone up the road. There's 123 units that's going to be finished at the top of the road. So there's 180 places within, a block and a half. The Stainsbury, places over on 18th. So in my neighborhood, there's a lot of density. The park hasn't gotten any bigger for those that want to use green space. The schools really haven't got any bigger either. And I would presume it's much the same up in the Carleton neighborhood in terms of, there's the potential for change. I mean, we know there's various properties. Every time I've taken SkyTrain or gone up Vanessa, I can see a new tower, a new this. I was at a Union of BC Municipalities convention quite some time ago, and there was a councillor from Langford who talked about they had been counting heads for school, and they got gobsmacked by it because all of a sudden there were twice as many kids because that entire residential street, this is quite a while ago before it was, I'm sure they were legal suites, but there were suites in those. There were 2 households per home. I used to live over near Tyee Elementary, across the lane from it. And on our street on 20th across the road, virtually every single house across the road had 2 households, was divided into 2 households. Now, obviously not everyone has children, but the potential is there. I went down Nanaimo the other day. There's a new building going up at, I think it's about 5th in Nanaimo. I don't know how many units are in that, but it doesn't take that many. And all of a sudden, you've got a classroom of kids from one apartment building. And I was here a couple of weeks ago and they were talking about successfully getting everybody from who is in Carleton after the fire to the 3 neighboring schools. So there's currently capacity. My worry is, will there be capacity in 20, 25 years to do that? I think that's something that really needs to be taken into account. I also wonder if that capacity took into account, I know you measured the distances, somebody measured the distances. Presumably an adult measured the distances, and it's a really different thing when a child walks to a school. They wanted to close the elementary school that was a block and a half from my home growing up in Victoria. And it would have decimated that neighborhood because nobody would have moved in other than empty nesters and people without children. But I mean, so they eventually didn't, and it's thriving. But one of the problems was the 2 schools away had pretty substantial hills in between and major roads. And there's definitely major roads in this area. And, kids need to be able to get to school. And in the upper grades of elementary, they're hopefully doing it by themselves or within a group. They're not going with mom or dad or nanny or the neighbor or whatever. And so I think you need to take that into effect. I have a slight disagreement with the fellow who sat here just a minute ago. I wouldn't sell any of the property. Maybe you want to lease it. I know the building's not in great shape and there's a lot of public money spent just maintaining it. And I think that's, there's a lot of better things we could be doing in this school district with that money. I do like his idea, though, of kind of the heritage facade. I think that's really neat. The other thing that came up last time was the need for the Francophone School District to have a secondary school. So if you're going to declare part of this property surplus to VSB needs, I would say consider them. Otherwise, I think you should keep this property. I don't think you should sell it. Yes, a sale would give you, unless you're going to maybe sell it to the Francophone District or a portion thereof, but be very careful because you'd get a windfall of money right now, but in 20 years, that's going to be nothing what you need to buy it back. Just think of Olympic Village and the fact that they're still waiting for a school and those kids can't walk to school. They got to go pretty far away, and they have displaced kids within the catchment of, I believe it's Simon Fraser, who have moved east to another school, and it's displacing people there, and I can see I'm down to 6 seconds. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you, and please don't sell public land.
Thank you, David. We appreciate you coming to speak. I do just want to remind everyone of our policies when it comes, when it's around our school properties, and this is actually to speak on the closure of the site. And so this is not surplus, this is not disposition, this is, this is just on the feedback that's received around closure only, just to clarify for those who have come to speak. That's the only thing that we're considering at this point as a board. Seeing no questions for David, we will go to the next person on the list, which is Subrata. Wonderful. And I will ask you to correct my pronunciation, please. Subrata Dasgupta. Wonderful.
Hi.
You can begin.
You can hear? Okay, so I came in 2002 in this neighborhood. My youngest son went to Greenfield and later on in Windermere. My eldest son went to Windermere. So the reason I came in the other presentation, the money, which is very important. In 2016, 2,500 square feet cost $3.5 million. Right now it is $7 million. Meanwhile, we spend $650,000 for the maintenance. How the funding can happen? This is my suggestion. There is two: crowdfunding funding and corporate funding. So crowd, I have all the data, but there's a lack of data. Crowd funding can be 200,000, and corporate funding, that is all the builders, it is a big unique sales point for them to have more recreation centers, schools, etc. They are selling the capital asset. So if I have that calculation, it comes to $28.4 million, $10 per square feet. But probably we need 7 billion. Then there is a mixed use. We do not have a good gym over there. We do not have good recreation centers. We have only one library. If you see from 2016 to 2025, the per capita growth of the revenue, that is tax, some part comes to the BSP. In city, the growth is maximum. I mean, it beats downtown in the growth. On the other hand, if you see X amount of dollar comes from that neighborhood, and the investment in that neighborhood is Y, so X is greater than Y, and that gap is diverging. So coming back to the point, second point is the ethnicity. Being a campaigner, political campaigner, most of the ethnicity are from Asian origin. Now, on 13th of November, StatsCan released a data which is being published in Vancouver Sun on 15th of November. 50% of the mothers in this country are who are producing, giving birth to this child, are born outside Canada. So there are different reasons, religious reasons, there are Christian values and the ethnic values from their country. And the most important reason is they have a family ecosystem, grandfather, grandmother. So 1 year you get the EI, and after 1 year to 2 years, you have your grandfather, aunts who can take care of your kid. So it is an incentive for them to have kids, but they are not rich, they are middle class. If we have 1,000 kids coming there, on the other hand, we have 700 vacancies. A grandmother has to take a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 2 kilometers, who came from some Asian country. So that is a little bit awkward or not. So it says that 3,100 new homes are coming, London Drug is closing, you know, all the data, and then 6 high rise and this and that, and co-op is there. What is happening, I have some idea about that. When a builder, whether it is West Group, anyone, wants to sell the property, it is a capital asset. So people, before buying that capital asset, look at the neighborhood, which is very important to them. And when they say, okay, there are 10 schools or 5 schools or 15 schools, we have this much of daycare, or we need 37 daycares, we have this much, 74 we need, and we have 37 daycares, and everything is black and white. They will be more attracted to pay $10 more per square feet, or it will be much more better for the sale. Okay.
You can finish your thought.
Okay. So the last thing I say is that it is nothing but the political will of the ruling class. That what it matters. It doesn't matter who is there in this case, you. My humble request is listen to your heart, not only the numbers, and then decide. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. We'll move to our next speaker tonight, Devin Harlows. Hi, Devin.
Hi.
Thanks for coming tonight. You can
Thank you.
begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. So my name is Devin Harlows. I am a registered professional planner with the Planning Institute of British Columbia. I'm a new mom and I live right across the street from Carleton Elementary. I'm here to speak in opposition of the closure tonight for the following reasons. The first is that it feels as though the board is forcing us into a decision here after neglecting the building and deferring upgrades for the past 9 years. This is a tactic that we sometimes see in the for-profit development industry, whereby a landowner, building owner, neglects to maintain a property for many years, and then you end up in a position where you're forced to demolish it, really at the loss of any heritage retention or community input. This is not how we should be treating our public assets. I am just extremely disappointed that you're putting Collingwood residents in this position of having to come here and defend a school that we have entrusted you to protect. The second reason is that a school in this location is good planning. This is a really good spot for a school. It's within the heart of Collingwood. It's had a huge impact, the closure, just on the vibrancy of the neighborhood, having this massive dead site across the street and on such a busy corridor. It's also, as I know you know, it's within one of the province's transit-oriented areas that's targeted for growth. And we are already experiencing multiple tower developments underway. There was just a new multi-unit residential building that just opened across the street on Kingsway and Joyce. But we need to not only consider just the rezonings that are underway right now, but the long-term future of this area as a transit-oriented area. Even my block, it's a minimum of 8 stories, and right now it's all single-family homes. And so to close a school within a TOA is completely antithetical to good planning practice and totally against building complete communities. We should be grateful that we already have this amazing public asset in our community, and we should be taking care of it, not letting it sit for years and years, and then coming up with this rationale that it's beyond repair and we have to close it. And I want to go over the 5 points in your rationale for closure because I believe they are flawed. The first reason that you state is that the buildings have not accommodated students since 2016. I feel that this is a bit of a disingenuous point because it's a result of the board's own inaction that it has not accommodated students. It's not because there are not students there to be accommodated. The second point you have is that the buildings are costly to maintain. Again, it's the decision to leave the building vacant, to delay repairs, that the building is just sitting there and having to pay these kind of monthly operating costs instead of using that money or tax dollars to repair the building. The third reason you state is that it has a high seismic risk rating. Again, we should not be closing the school because of a high seismic risk. We should be seismically upgrading the building as we do. And I know it was on the list for upgrades and that was deferred. So I feel that that's a very weak point. And then the fourth reason that you state is that the Conseil Scolaire Francophone has requested to acquire the site. I know Trustee Jung, you asked us just to speak about the closure specifically and that this isn't about selling the land, but in your own rationale, you are stating that someone wants to acquire the site. And then, but I would in theory be supportive, but it's just so intangible. There's no offer to purchase in place. It just seems like a very loose reasoning at this point. And then the fifth reason you state is that the buildings cannot be used in their current state. Again, this is flawed rationale because it's due to the willful inaction that the building cannot be used. And it's just not a rationale to close a school. Let's repair it, let's rebuild it. And finally, I just want to say that it's, good planning requires an honest evaluation of all the aspects of a decision. And so far, it feels like the VSB's reports have been entirely skewed to closing the school. Nowhere is outlined the benefits of keeping the school, of repairing it, of upgrading it, and so that we can actually make an honest decision with both sides measured. So yeah, I just want to end by saying thank you for your time, and please do not close the school.
Thank you, Devin. Any questions from trustees? Trustee Friedkup?
Hi, can you
Hi.
just, the fifth point?
Yes.
Can you just repeat that one more time?
Oh yes. So, so your fifth reason is that the buildings cannot be used in their current state. And I find that this is flawed rationale because it's due to the board's willful inaction that they cannot be used.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the fifth point is like the building cannot be used because there's a lot of damage that was done, right?
Yes.
And in order for like us to
I want to remind you to
Okay.
keep these just for clarification purposes,
Okay,
if you have
okay.
questions.
Okay. Yeah. I guess my point is that further damage has occurred throughout these past 9 years. Each year it becomes more difficult and more difficult and more difficult to repair and upgrade the building. So I think.
Devin, I just have
Yeah.
a quick question
Yes.
as well. Are you familiar that applications were made for the building to be renovated and were declined from those who fund us?
I did read that, yes, and it said that there was a business case. I couldn't find that it was denied based on the business case.
So many applications were made for
Mhm.
the ministry to fund it, to renovate and to fund it, and they
Mhm.
were all declined. So that is something I think is an important piece when that we have made public. But yes, and my last question to you was around your comment of costs to of keeping the building. Are you, I guess, aware that the operational costs for us as a board to put into that school would have come from teachers in classrooms?
What do you mean, sorry?
The funds that
Mhm.
may be allocated would have had to come from somewhere because we're actually funded by the ministry. So your
Mhm.
comment around, I was looking for a little bit of clarification from you on if the understanding of how we're funded was built into your points.
Yes, I understand that it comes from taxpayers. No, it doesn't.
Sorry, do you have any comments? I don't see anyone's hands up. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We're going to go to our next speaker, Marie-Eve Boudreau. Are you in the room? Welcome. Oh, sorry, we can't hear you. Come on up to the
Hi,
microphone.
sorry.
Yes.
I have someone that's going to co-present with me. So I'll read my little piece and then I'll step out and then we'll have
I
the
just want to
second.
clarify that we got appropriate sign-offs. We have to get consent when people come to speak. You've just one moment. We're just going to clarify that everyone sent in the
good.
appropriate. We just have to check with staff because there's a lot of rules around. Oh, could you turn your microphone on and just,
Just because we are recording and live broadcasting the meeting, we need to ensure that we have a written consent from all presenters. So I'll just collect the form from my colleagues up front.
Awesome.
thank you. Thanks for being patient with us.
Thank you as well. You got it? Perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
I will be reading because
Sorry, you've both speakers approval? Okay, wonderful. All right, Marie Ev?
that's good.
No, I want to hear it from you, please.
Marie-Ève.
Oh, goodness. Marie Ev,
That's good. That's good.
thank you for being here. You can start anytime.
Hi, everyone. I am, as you can guess, I'm a Francophone parent. My children attend a school that falls under the Section 23 of the Canadian Charter Rights. That means that my kids are part of the French School Board, the CSF. But I'm also a Carleton neighbor. I live 30 seconds away. The reason why I'm speaking today is very simple. The French School Board families need the same thing that the English School Board families need. Good school. And good school close to home. We all want our children to learn, grow, and thrive in safe and welcoming places. That's why I believe that we should keep Carleton for school land dedicated to education. Whether that supports the English School Board or the French School Board, or maybe we can dream of both. Our French school is overflowing and many apartment towers rising in my neighborhood. It's very easy for me to see that our children need more space. Education lands should stay for education, please. Let me briefly share my understanding of the famous Section 23. It guarantees that Francophone families have the right to have their children educated in French and that this education should be the equivalent of the English system. For me, that simply means that my kids can go to French school so that they communicate with my mom, with my dad, with my best friends, and that they can learn their heritage. But what I want is to make very clear is that more schools for us should definitely not mean less school for the Anglophones. Our differences are what makes our world richer, more beautiful, and more interesting. Many families today, like mine, speak more than one language or come from more than one culture. So imagine for a minute that we could accomplish what we could accomplish if Anglophones and Francophones, parents both came together to shape the future education of East Van. In this scenario, when we lift one community up, we lift everyone up. As parents, I truly believe we can come up with creative and forward-thinking solution for Carleton and for all the schools in our region. Ultimately, I would love to see us all working in partnership with each other, with the city planners, with both school boards, building long-term vision that serves every children. Imagine neighbors supporting neighbors, celebrating each other's differences, and teaching our kids compassion, curiosity, inclusion. That's the future I want, please. Okay, can you press pause?
Thank you. We'll pause it at 1:40. Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, that makes me emotional.
Thank you, Mariev. Okay, and your name, please.
Gabrielle, so Gabriel, Trepanier, Trepanier.
All right, Gabrielle, you may begin anytime.
Yeah. So good evening, trustees. Thank you for having me. I am the president of the PAC of the other Francophone East Van school in, what would be in this French school board, the East Van catchment. It's a big catchment. And my kids are not yet within the Carleton catchment, but they will be when they go to Annebar, which is Mariev's school. So my school only goes from kindergarten to grade 3, and then we travel over there to go. So it is very much part of, I think, like the parents' mind, like how things evolve there affects us very much. And like Mariev said, like I don't want to be too repetitive, but we know that we are named in one of the 5 reasons why the school might close, but at the same time we want to make sure that we're actually invited to like a real conversation about it. I don't know if the CSF would want to buy the land, but I think that us parents haven't been invited to talk about it yet, haven't been even really made aware until like other people talked to us about it, that this was something that could happen. And I think that that's a big miss from just everyone, that not, and I know it's hard for the VSB and the CSF to probably sit together because historically it's been difficult, but I think it would be such a big step forward to actually sit down and imagine what that land could look like for students in the future.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Are there any questions for clarification from trustees? Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate your time. Our next speaker has withdrawn, and we'll go to Kaori Lau or Lai. Corey Lau. Oh, online. Is Corey online?
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Corey. We can hear
Sorry.
you. You can begin anytime you're ready.
Sorry, is my camera on? Here's my camera. Hi, can everybody see me now?
We can't, but I think IT is working on it. Yes, we can see you now.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm going to be not too long, just a couple of minutes. First of all, I just want to say, like, so far I've listened to the delegation the other week and the delegations today, and honestly, every single speaker has been against this. I've heard one speaker that was for. And earlier, Chair Young, you talked about listening to as many viewpoints as possible. And I think it's very clear that everybody who's passionate about this is against this. So the clarification you also mentioned earlier was that meeting is about the closure of Carleton. But as the earlier speaker said, if Carleton is closed to be closed, that leads to the land being unoccupied, which means what? So, I think everybody is speaking on assuming that if Carleton is closed, this unoccupied land will somehow be subdivided or disposed. There was also mention about, funding applications being declined. And I know that VSB worked hard to, keep trying to fight for this, but me being a public school advocate, we really want you to just keep fighting, like advocate for this land, just like parents advocate for their kids, and we need this board to help fight for this community. And you mentioned that the funds are coming from teachers and classrooms, but I also want to note that in last year's budget, there was $6.4 million spent on legal fees, including funds to fight CSF. And the inclusive ed budget was not spent on inclusive ed. So that is, I feel like, a budgeting issue where obviously nobody has enough money, but we need to think about how to spend this money well. And that's also on this board here. I really hope that you'll learn from other districts who now cannot build new schools without new land. Burnaby, Surrey, they're all struggling because they don't have the land. So this is a huge public land and we need to make sure it's public land that is used for the community again for public use. So I really urge you to listen to the people who voted you in to serve. I really don't feel like I need to reiterate any of the points made. There have been so many excellent points made from all the previous speakers. Please don't do what the city council did with the budget with 600 speakers speaking against the budget, but yes, they still voted it in. I really don't have anything new to say except I want to urge you to listen to the people that are speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to our next speaker, Indu. Is Indu here tonight? Oh yeah, okay, they're all online, moving from here on out. Indu, can you hear me? If you're speaking, you are on mute. I can see you on the screen, or I can see that you're there. If you also would like to turn your video on, we would welcome. Perfect. Okay, we can see you. Can you? And we can hear you. Indu Bhagat?
Yes, Indu Bhagat, almost.
And
Very close.
Indu Bhagat. Good to have you. You can begin anytime.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good evening, everyone. So I'm here to speak against the closure of Carlton Elementary. I'm a parent of two VSB students. I've lived in the original Carlton catchment for more than 10 years now. The community survey, as we have seen, has shown fundamental opposition to this closure. The opposition signed by 2,306 concerned citizens now confirms this. This is not a marginal issue. This is a clear, powerful mandate from the community the trustees serve. And I'm here to directly challenge the core rationale for this proposal, for this closure, the claim that surrounding schools have sufficient capacity. Now, based on my own lived experience in this community and the current enrollment data, this claim is inaccurate. VSP, in my opinion, must reconcile its projections with the present reality. Our local schools in this neighborhood are already at their breaking point, and I have immediate evidence from my side. In 2025, Weir, Waverly, Cunningham, the three neighborhood schools close to my house all had kindergarten waitlist. At Weir Elementary, in spite of running 3 kindergarten classes, at least 4 in catchment applications were unmet. And my own family is affected. My kids now go to 2 different schools, and I face a 1.4-kilometer commute twice daily with a kindergarten child. The emotional stress, I cannot begin saying anything on that. It's been detrimental to all 4 of us. Now, why are my kids going to 2 different schools if, according to VSB, there is room to serve current needs of the community? The current KG wait lists contradict this claim that these schools can absorb any non-negligible influx. Did you know that enrollments in Weir has been growing at 5% steadily year after year since I've been a parent at Weir? It was 360 in 2023, and now it stands to 399 in 2025. The total capacity at Weir is 420. This is just not enough buffer to continue taking 3 kg classes each year, let alone absorb any more students. Now, this strain, as we see, it causes family fragmentation and deep inequity. I know 3 families in my neighborhood who have settled on sending their kids to non-catchment schools or independent schools because there was no room for both the kids in the closest local public school, or the catchment school was a drive away. So if you are driving away with your kids, you might as well drive away to some other preferable school. So these families are all residents, the ones that I'm talking about here, my close neighbors. They are all residents of the original Carlton catchment. Now, this is a problem. Taxpayers' money should bring equal, fair access to educational infrastructure to each one, irrespective of which community we reside in. So, trustees, I ask you, if VSB schools in this neighborhood are already turning away in catchment students, on what grounds does VSB claim that the projected influx from densification in this area will be taken care of? And my argument extends beyond capacity numbers to fundamentally flawed process and planning data which is being used for this proposal. As other people have spoken, there is immense densification that this area is already seeing. I question the reliance of VSB's preferred method of using these capacity models for a land disposition. These Barragar stats are inappropriately used for land disposition decision when the board's own guidelines emphasize the use of Metro Vancouver population stats for long-range planning. Now, population stats and densification plans from City of Vancouver guidelines also clearly indicate the need for additional school capacity, not consolidation. Joyce Collingwood area is BC's fastest growing transit-oriented areas, excuse me, one of BC's fastest growing transit-oriented areas. About 2,000 units are already approved across various developments. And according to some of the results I looked up, 8,300 units are expected in Joyce Collingwood and Norquay Village area in the next 30 years. So why does VSB project that the number of enrollments in this area are going to stay the same until 2039? I remember going to this public engagement session on October 23rd, and one of the slides that was shown was the number of students enrolled now will remain about the same even if we move to 2039. That doesn't sit well with what the ground data currently holds. So, and all this makes me ask you the question again. Do you think this is a fair public engagement process if you're using misleading data? Second, VSB is showing contempt for this public
I'll just
process. The
ask you to
attempt,
finish up.
yes,
Just
okay.
with your
Yeah,
last sentence. Go ahead.
yeah. The attempt to subdivide Carlton land well in advance of a final closure decision undermines the transparency of this consultation. It suggests a predetermined outcome focused on land disposition, not educational need. In my opinion, redrawing the boundaries before the closure is approved was just wrong too. In conclusion, the data, enrollment procedures, and community needs are clear, and I would ask the trustees to please listen to the parents and residents who oppose this closure. Please reject the proposal, commit to a long-range plan that supports rather than sacrifices the needs of this growing neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Indu. Trustee Reddy, would you mind just turning off the mic next to you if you don't mind? Thanks, because we don't have any more in-person speakers. Thanks. Appreciate it. Seeing no questions for Indu, we'll move to our next speaker. Trevor. Is Trevor online? Ah, wonderful. We see you, Trevor Falkenhagen. Please,
Yeah, thanks.
please
That's
correct
good
me.
pronunciation. No, that's good pronunciation. Thanks.
Wonderful. Good to have you, and you can begin when you're ready.
Perfect. Good evening, board members, trustees, and fellow neighbors. Thank you for this opportunity to speak in opposition of the proposed closure of Sir Guy Carleton School. My name is Trevor. I am a construction manager and a new father. I'm a resident of Renfrew Collingwood neighborhood for the past 5 years and was born and raised in Vancouver. I live within a stone's throw of Sir Guy Carleton School and hope to raise my family here. I have many concerns regarding School District 39's management of real estate assets, and I'm very concerned about the lack of transparency surrounding Sir Guy Carleton School. To start, I don't believe closing the school without a long-term plan is a good idea, and I fear the actions of the board are jeopardizing the future well-being of Vancouver residents and taxpayers. Already, the board has moved forward with an application for subdivision of the land without full disclosure to all stakeholders. Does this mean the board is positioning the public land for sale? Without clear transparency and proper community engagement, how do we know what the board's true intentions are? It appears as though they are positioning for the sale, which I think would be a big mistake, especially if it were sold to a private entity. As we all know, land value in Vancouver has skyrocketed and is often cited as the biggest prohibiting factor in a pro forma that works. What if some of the school buildings were retained and seismically upgraded, with the remainder of the site being developed into other public amenities, or similar to the Green Thumb Theatre, portions of the site could be leased? This would not only generate much needed revenue for the VSB, but it would also prevent private entities from capitalizing on redevelopment and realizing all the profits for themselves. In their own long-range facilities plan, the VSB was supposed to be guided by, and I quote, planning that takes into account economic, community, and environmental benefits for students, families, and all citizens of Vancouver. While I understand some of the economic hardships the board has faced over the years, letting the site deteriorate to this state is unacceptable. While the seismic upgrades needed are significant, they are achievable, and there are numerous examples of buildings in Vancouver that have successfully completed this scope of work. The VSB claims that between 2017 and 2019, they attempted to secure funding from the province, but they did not prepare or submit a business case despite the province approving funding to develop one. Why have they ceased their efforts for funding since then? If a business case was actually prepared and submitted, I ask that this be made public and shared with the community. On November 24th of this year, the VSP presented some key reasonings which I believe are flawed. One of them was that the school has not been occupied since 2016. And while it's sad to walk by every day and see such beautiful buildings boarded up, they haven't been occupied due to the board's inaction. A good tenant of the land would never neglect a site for that long and let their asset depreciate. The presentation also cited costly annual maintenance. While the school buildings or any asset may be costly to maintain, neglecting major repairs and improvements to the site has ended up costing more money in the long run. Had the school been repaired and occupied in a timely fashion, the province could have allocated additional funding. A third reason they gave was that the buildings have a high seismic risk rating. I don't like when seismic risk upgrades are cited as a means to close a school, especially when numerous schools of similar builds to the main school building have undergone successful implementations. They also stated that Conseil Scolaire Francophone de Colombie-Britannique has requested to acquire the site. I would be supportive of a French language school on this site, and this kind of request is promising. However, a request is not a plan, and no agreements have been discussed. I see a lot of similarities between this site and 500 Dunsmuir, another heritage building with a rich Vancouver history that was demolished due to inaction by the landlord, commonly called demolition by neglect. Fortunately, though, I also see a lot of similarities to this site and 480 Broughton, better known as the Cole Harbour Community Centre. This is an excellent example of retaining public space and developing it into something that truly serves a growing community. I'd like to end my time with the definition of a trustee. A trustee is a person or entity managing assets for another's benefit, legally bound to act in the beneficiary's best interest. I do not believe the trustees here today are acting in the best interest of this community by proposing to close Sir Guy Carleton School. I encourage them to carefully plan, listen to the community, and develop an approach where this public space remains just that, a public space, whether that be repairing and upgrading the existing site or redeveloping it into a new educational facility while retaining some of the heritage features and rich history that is Sir Guy Carleton. As the oldest school in the city with some of the most beautiful buildings, a triumph of 1896 when Vancouver was also a very rapidly growing city, I'm begging you, please do not close this school.
Thank you, Trevor. Are there any questions? Trustee Chan Pedley.
Thank you, Chairperson. Trevor, congrats on being a new dad. You right at the end, you briefly talked about our legal responsibilities, and I'm wondering if you're aware that we're legally not allowed to talk about next steps beyond closure, that we're only here to talk about the closure part.
Correct, I understand that. I guess what I'm looking for is clarity on why have you guys moved forward with a subdivision application stating that you don't have plans.
Unfortunately, we are here to listen to you and we can't respond. However, in some of our previous meetings on this, you can find the response to that. Seeing no other questions, thank you, Trevor, for being here tonight and for sharing your views.
Thank you so much for all of your time. I really appreciate it.
Speaker 2.1.11 has withdrawn, and so we'll now go to Jennifer Gray Grant, who should be online as well.
Sharing your views.
Wonderful. We can hear you, Jennifer, and you can begin your time now.
Okay, and can you hear me? No,
We can hear you and we can see you.
Okay, fantastic. Great, thank you. Good to be here. I'm here speaking as an individual. I've lived and worked in Renfrew, Collingwood for the last 32 years. My children actually attended Nootka Elementary and Windermere and McGee Secondary. Both went through the fine arts programs in those schools, and I just wanted to say that I'm very grateful to the public education system. They both make their living in the arts right now, and I attribute a lot of that to the fact that they had a public education in the arts. So I've also volunteered locally at in the neighborhood, and I was executive director at Collingwood Neighborhood House for 14 years, which is just down the street from Carleton. So I know the school, the neighborhood, and a lot of the residents quite well. One of the things about Renfrew Collingwood that is, it's kind of, everybody refers to this, but if you haven't been there, I don't think you'll understand it, is just how much densification has happened in the neighborhood. It's been rapid and it's been deep. What's been interesting to me is that when I was working at Collingwood Neighborhood House, city councilors or city planners would come by and we'd walk them around the neighborhood. And to a person, they would be astonished at the neighborhood's rapid densification. They were the ones who approved that densification from 12th and Cambie. And so it was interesting to me that they were surprised when they saw it on the ground, just the towers towering overhead, filled with individuals and families and children who are looking for schools, of course. The other thing that astonished people was how quickly that densification has happened. I was in some of those meetings in 2016 when they were doing the latest plan, and things have happened far faster in terms of densification than was expected at that time, really, honestly, by anybody. So it makes me wonder, I know some of you have, I've seen some of you, but how many of you have come recently to the neighborhood to see how quickly that densification has happened? It's one thing to see it on a map or read about it. It's quite astonishing to see it in person. I think one of the issues that has to be considered is the myth of the excess space, because Carleton has been closed for 9 years. But really, those students who would have attended Carleton are going to other local schools and traveling longer distances to do so. And it's not always safe. Again, please come and look at some of the streets that their families are going to have to walk them through. And as some of the other parents have mentioned, there also simply isn't space in some of the schools. So I think it's a myth that there's excess space in the neighborhood, or that Carleton represents that. I think Carleton represents allowing people to flourish in the neighborhood rather than struggle in order to try to keep your children at a school, any schools locally, which, as other parents have said, is become impossible in some cases. When I was at Collingwood Neighborhood House, we had school-age care in schools. It was in Carleton as well, of course, but it was in the other schools. And it was a constant pressure because we rented the school space from the school board, being pushed into less suitable spaces because of the pressing demand for classroom space. So again, densification. Developers in our neighborhood are selling the air. There are higher towers and there are families being squeezed into smaller apartments. And they are raising children. There's a myth that they're not. There are a lot of children in our neighborhood. And there's more to come. People have referenced the 6 towers that are already approved. I'm not sure if this has happened tonight. I was driving across town to a Christmas party and I just stepped into here to talk to you. But London Drugs is going to be leaving the neighborhood, and there's a site there that they'll likely build towers in, because that's what you do in Renfrew Collingwood, apparently. And then Safeway as well. There are 3 towers ultimately planned for that site that will attract families and children. I think the other thing to mention just briefly is green space. I know it doesn't necessarily fall into your bailiwick, but the fact is that we are low on green space. There are a number of studies that show that. And losing Carleton means we're going to lose quite substantial green space. There's a green space at the front of the school and a playground at back. So with these clear pressures locally, I am astonished that you're even considering closing the school. It's a desperately needed asset. It simply will kick the issue down the road to a future school board, to your colleagues down the road who are going to have to look at land purchase at a higher price. It would be a terrible loss for our neighborhood, a terrible legacy for your board to leave to our neighborhood and to future boards. So I would just say, please keep Carleton alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any questions from trustees? Okay, I don't see any. Thank you again for being here to present tonight. Next, we have, next on the agenda, we have Vivek Khanna. Are you with us, Vivek? I can see that you're on. Okay, we can see you and hear you now. You can begin when you're ready. Hi, Vivek, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. You can begin when you're ready.
Okay. I'd like to start off by stating some of the VSB's policies, specifically relating to education plan equity statement. The board is to be committed to creating equitable learning environments where every child feels a sense of belonging and can pursue authentic learning pathways. Equity is prioritized through inclusive curriculum, informed decision-making, open communication, and actively combating oppression with humility and accountability. And one of the VSB's goals is to ensure efficient and sustainable resource use. I found there's a lot of gaps that haven't really been analyzed, and some of the things that I mentioned last time included the equitability factor, which I don't think I was reading all of the VSB's reasons and everything, and there's nothing in there that actually addresses that. There is, the last closure attempt was in 2023. This process was paused to assess the impact of provincial housing changes and updated city zoning on student enrollment. June 2025 updated enrollment projections confirm the nearby schools can accommodate students both now and in the future. That's something that I think most of the feedback that was given in the survey of the people that were opposing the closure, and actually at the last delegation as well, was due to the transit-oriented area and the population density increase and the need for more schooling. I think there's a lot of things in the VSB's assessment to close the school that they highlight. To me, it feels like it was they didn't do their due diligence or acted in an unbiased way, really. So similar to one of the earlier people who spoke, and they were saying there was a lot of points that they found that the VSB was just trying to find ways to close the school. One of them was like, they're talking about, you've mentioned the maintenance cost of $65,000 a year, but I think that's not really a huge amount when you think about how much the property value has gone up over those last 10 years, especially for that big of a lot. There was also point 4B in the presentation where it stated that the VSB was denied funding multiple requests, and the last one was in 2018. There was a document that I've seen that stated that there was a budget by the VSP of $33.3 million, which was going to be allocated to Carleton. And the only thing that needed to be presented was a business case, which you guys have decided not to do at that time, which makes someone wonder, why was that? It's like, you guys have been trying to close the school. There's no school catchment. It's a point 4C. I think one of the biggest issues with this is that the catchment areas that are being viewed are those only on the south side of Kingsway, and not including the north side of Grenfell and Bruce, which are actually closer to Carleton than Cunningham is. And that's where all that density is taking place. There is also, of course, the equity concern for low-income households that live just across the street and are obligated to transfer much longer distances if this was to go through. I mean, I was pulling stats from Stats Canada, and it stated that 13% of low-income housing is in East Vancouver. That's 1 in every 8 people. And it's interesting that even with the economic status of that area, the VSP is projecting a very high rate of independent school attendance, where I think it was stated at 24%, 26%, I think. That's a pretty high percentage to consider that. And I know that the distance was calculated from each side of where Carleton was to the new catchment areas of 1.4 kilometers, but Beer is already experiencing, they're at 90% capacity as it is right now. So when that school gets overpopulated, it's students who are going to be living in that area are going to have to travel much further.
You can finish your sentence there.
Yeah, so I just think that it would have been better if they actually used the current capture rate instead of projecting a much lower one down the road. And also, the other big thing is that the Berger data is not something that should be used when considering a long-term, like a disposal of a school property.
Okay.
It's supposed to be Metro Vancouver stats, which I don't know why that wasn't used or considered to be used, because that's the long-term forecast.
Thank you very much. And I don't see, and we do have a question. Just one moment, if you'd stick around. Trustee Friedcoat, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Vivek, for speaking today. I just have a question about the 33.3 million budget that you're referring to. Where did you read that?
It came out in a Freedom of Information request.
Do you have a follow-up or? If I'm not mistaken, you said it came out in a Freedom of Information request of some kind? Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, and it was in September of 2020.
September of 2020. Okay, and sorry, that 30, was that a VSB number or a ministry number? Where did that come from?
I believe it's VSB. It was VSB stats. And
Okay.
also, at that time, because I know in your timeline you were saying that, I know what I read was in the presentation that you presented to closing the school, is that it would have cost $36 million in 2019 to upgrade the school, which $33 million gets you really close to that amount. And now you're saying that it's going to be double that amount, which already shows like a lack of fiscal responsibility on the VSB's part.
Thank you very much for coming to speak. We have another question for you, actually, if you stick around. Trustee Friedcoat.
Thank you. Vivek, is that okay if you can send us an email with that stats so we can have a look at it?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, we appreciate your time. We'll move to our next speaker tonight. Speaker 2.1.14, we have Vic Khanna. Are you there?
Vic was in the lobby just now, but I see he had disappeared from the lobby. So,
Hey, can we give him just a 30 seconds and see if he joins us again? Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, I think we see him now. Is that correct, IT? Can we move along? Okay, perfect. Okay, Vic, I can see you and I can't hear you yet. Would you say?
Just trying to connect my Bluetooth.
Perfect. We can hear you and we can see you. You can begin now.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. Well, thank you for everyone for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. I want to be very brief. I've been at the volunteering for the parents, for the city of Vancouver, and for caregivers and everyone in the community for 7 years. So I've been at this for quite a while, volunteering. And what I feel about volunteering is I feel great satisfaction. So I feel, you make a difference, you make an impact. So the first story I want to share is when I first started, it was about Eric Hamber and how they didn't want to build an auditorium in the secondary school. So I took a little offense to that and I said, this doesn't seem right. So I asked the Treasury Board, why do they not want to fund space for the arts in a secondary school? And they didn't want to answer the question, but they found it easier to cough up some money. So they did. They put some money forward. And then the school board put some money forward. And then the auditorium got built. So really cool story. Fast forward to today, we're thinking about closing a school in a transit zone where the province has legislated a lot of density. That doesn't make a lot of sense to people like me. So I think there's something wrong. So whatever's going on, I think there's an opportunity. And when there's risk like this, where people feel there's something going wrong, then there's a lot of risk. So, the job of a trustee is to mitigate risk. You don't want risk. You don't want lawyers. You don't want risk. You just don't want it. You want something really good. So I think there's something really good coming. And that's that Vancouver has got to make an official development plan. That's something called the ODP. So the ODP has to be done in pretty short time, by June 2026. So this is the opportunity to really, coordinate and get together and make things happen. So I think what that means is, what does make things happen mean? And what does coordination mean? It means, let's get together with the CSA. Let's get together with the city. Let's get together with UBC. Let's get together with the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. And let's get together with the province. And let's get together with many federal departments. And let's see what's really possible for 6 acres of land near a SkyTrain station. Let's showcase what's possible. So I want us to get out of, the regular thinking. If we think about the 4 pillars that, the professional organization process put forward, yeah, in a silo mentality, it kind of makes sense. So if you take the Fleming precedent, you'd vote 7-2. But why do that when there's so much opportunity available to coordinate? So I hope this vote comes down close, down to the wire. I hope it's 5-4 to keep Carleton, to never close that school, to make sure that we share the land with others. And I'm here to take questions. And I really want to take the time to also just say one thing, that the job of being a trustee is not easy. And if I've been at this for 7 years, then out of the 9 trustees, most of you have not been there for 7 years. So I just want to, leave that with one thing that I want to reflect on. I want to thank, the trustees that have been there for so long to always have worked with me. So, that goes out to Jennifer Reddy and to Janet Fraser. You guys have always been there. You guys have always taken my calls. You guys have always shared your wisdom. I really hope that today we can get together on one thing that Janet did make a motion on way back in the day. And that was, she said, it would be nice if the board made available the covert land asset strategy. And to date, the board has never acted on that motion. So I really wish that we could make a motion to disclose a land asset strategy and to hand it over to the city and to say, we want you to take this, tweak it, adjust it, make it part of the ODP, and we're ready to, work with you and coordinate with everyone on the ODP, because it's a big moment. Thank you. I'm here to take questions.
Thank you very much. I don't see any questions from trustees. No, there are no questions from our end. Thank you very much for coming to present tonight. We have come to the end of our list of speakers, and if there are no objections from trustees, I want to thank everyone again tonight for coming to speak and for those who sent us information, and we'll now adjourn the meeting at 6:13 p.m. Thanks.